So the purpose of this memorial is to celebrate the lives of all 9 of our Marines. The purpose was to get the families together with our Marine unit and celebrate their lives, talk about their accomplishments and what they meant to the Marines here, and to see what the lives of those Marines meant to our Marines. And we can share our grief and share a celebration of life with each of them. I tell you, it's not easy to lose some of your best friends. It's not easy to lose your squadron mates, especially 9 of them at one time. But I will say I'm so proud of every single Marine in this unit because they've come together and they've been made stronger. I think it's a tighter bond, and I think we have a really good foundation with which to go forth.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The music for today's memorial service is provided by Marine Corps Band New Orleans under the direction of Chief Warrant Officer 2 Demarius Jackson and the New York City Fire Department Emerald Society Pipes, and drums under the direction of Fighter Kevin Donovan. On behalf of the Commanding Officer, Marine Aerial Refueler Transport Squadron 452, Lieutenant Colonel Joshua Eisenhower, welcome to today's memorial service, where we will honor the lives of the 9 American servicemen: Major Kane Goyette, Captain Sean Elliott, Gunnery Sergeant Brendan Johnson, Gunnery Sergeant Mark Hopkins, Staff Sergeant Joshua Snowden, Sergeant Owen Lennon, Sergeant Julian Kevon, Corporal Colin Schaff, and Corporal Daniel Baldassari. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The New York City Fire Department Emerald Society Pipes and Drums will now perform Amazing Grace. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commanding Officer of Marine Aero Refueler Transport Squadron 452, Lieutenant Colonel Joshua Eisenhower.
Good afternoon. General Walters, Lieutenant General McMillan, Lieutenant General Caslin, Brigadier General James, Brigadier General Stein, Brigadier General Goering. To the group commanders, colonels, fellow squadron commanders, senior enlisted advisors, distinguished guests, MARSOC brothers, community members, and most importantly, to the family members of our fallen, thank you for being here today. On behalf of the Marines and sailors of VMGR 452, I would like to say thank you for sharing this time with us and paying tribute to our fallen brothers. The show of support from the families and the Marines of this squadron has been nothing short of amazing. We have all been overwhelmed by the outreach from the community, both the local police, fire departments, community organizations, veterans organizations, and especially our neighbors here at the 105th. We are all here to honor the memory and service of these 9 Marines. Many of you know the story. On July 10th, at 1500, Yankee 72 departed from Cherry Point, North Carolina, with the destination of El Centro. On board were our 15 Marines and 1 sailor. Just before 1600, over the skies of Mississippi, something went wrong with the aircraft, and we lost 165, 000, and everyone on board. That is what all the media outlets, every social media site throughout the country has been told. That's what you've been told. But what you haven't been told is the stories behind each of these names, each of these faces that you see up here on this stage. And this is precisely what we want to do today. We want to tell you who these men were and what they meant to their friends, families, squadron mates, and communities. As a squadron commander, I cannot diminish with words the impact the loss of our brothers had on this squadron, the community, or their family members. Our goal today is to tell their stories. We want you to know these men as well as we knew them. No one word can truly capture the essence or the character of Yankee 72, of these men. But the word that has commonly been associated with each of them and collectively as Yankee 72, both inside and outside the KC-130 community, is class. These 9 gentlemen that you see up here were class personified. Don't get me wrong, each of these guys had their ornery streaks. After all, they're Marines, right? They were known for being practical jokers, relentlessly playing jokes on each other, ribbing each other. But when it came down to conduct business, when they put the uniform on, they boarded that aircraft and strapped in, they were professionals. They epitomized professional Marines and air crewmen. Over the last month, the squadron and I have had the honor of traveling the country putting our brothers to rest. It's a solemn and emotionally draining experience. I knew this task would be grueling, but I didn't know how fulfilling it would be. Having the opportunity to meet, hug, shed tears, break bread, and even drink beers with the amazing people whose lives were affected by this loss has been overwhelming and healing. From our home here in North Carolina and New Jersey to Dallas, Texas, to Tacoma, Washington, the outpouring of support and love has been tremendous and greatly appreciated. From this experience and from my own personal experience with each of these Marines, I could stand up here for hours telling you stories. Some appropriate, probably some not so appropriate. But instead, I want you to hear the stories from their peers. I want you to hear from the Marines who laughed, cried, sweated, bled with them each day, in and out. So please join us in celebrating and grieving the crew of Yankee 72.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will now hear from 9 different Marines that each have remarks about the Marines we are honoring today.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Parker. I'm fortunate enough to be the executive officer of VMGR 452 and even more fortunate to have called Kane Goyette my friend. Major Kane Michael Goyette was a 41-year-old aircraft commander of Yankee 72 on July 10th. But to his family, his friends, and his colleagues, he was so much more. First and foremost, he was a dedicated family man. Anyone would tell you that. A loving husband to his beautiful wife, Andrea, doting father of 2 amazing daughters, Alex and Annalise, proud son of Cliff and Janice, brother to Aaliyah, son-in-law to Todd and Valerie, and brother-in-law to Renee and Steve. Next, Kane was a loyal friend and proud son of the amazing city of Waterford, New York. During the recent memorial held in Kane's honor, we had the pleasure of meeting many of the friends and people who played ball, hunted, fished, and rode bikes with Kane throughout his life. Seeing the love and kindness that emanated from those in attendance, it's easy to see why Kane often bragged about his childhood in his hometown. Marine, Kane was a patriotic American who dedicated the majority of his adult life to the Marine Corps, starting on the yellow footprints of Parris Island and rising to become the operations officer and maintenance officer here at VMGR 452, the very place that his journey began in 1994 as a calibrations technician just across the street here. Kane was a natural leader. His ability to lead with an amazing blend of humility, humor, and unparalleled intelligence crossed all ranks. He was just as comfortable in a room full of 18-year-old Marines as he was in a room full of general officers dissecting one of his infamously detailed spreadsheets. As a pilot, there are few who could be named in the same category as Kane, me included. He was exceptional and widely respected by the junior Marines, his peers, and superiors alike. When Kane was scheduled to fly a mission, we knew that the job would be done right and with class, as the CO said. Flying with Kane was always an event. It was an adventure, don't get me wrong. During a recent mission to Kentucky, we sat over the skies of Kentucky for 7 hours on night vision goggles. I never learned more about honey making, beekeeping, sourdough bread making, or making jam than I ever wanted to know. But I gotta tell you, 7 hours on goggles went by pretty quick. There's so many more titles that can be, and labels that can be attached to Kane. Beekeeper, farmer, chef, therapist, and carpenter, which led to more than one trip to the local hospital. We'll end it there. While Kane's booming laugh, infectious smile, and piercing eyes, and notorious sweet tooth will no longer grace our ranks, his legacy will live on in all of us who had the pleasure of knowing him. Rest in peace, brother. We've got the watch.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Captain Quinn Hoffman. I'm humbled to stand in front of you today to celebrate the life of my friend, Sean Elliott. Sean and I first met when I checked into VMGR 252. Shortly after check-in, I learned we would be deploying together to Special Purpose MAGTF, AFRICOM. Our first pre-deployment training exercise is when our bond started to grow, and I got to experience everything Sean had to offer, both as a Marine and a friend. Sean was always making himself available if someone had to vent their frustrations, needed help with a problem, or just wanted company at lunch. He was always organizing barbecues back at the barracks to help build the camaraderie of the officers going on that deployment, and to look after the Marines that would be accompanying us. Sean's passion for flying was apparent to everyone from day one. You could habitually find him studying his NATOPS, and he would love to talk through different scenarios with the other aviators. I would often go to him to ask him to help explain what a particular system or routine was in order to increase my familiarity with the aircraft. Sean was always patient and looked forward to the questions as a way to test his own knowledge. It's hard to summarize the impact Sean had on my life and the Marines he served with. There are several memories that I have that stick out in my mind. Sean loved tradition. Marine aviation has too many traditions to discuss in one sitting. Sean was religious about being a member of the JOPA, the Junior Officer Protection Association, and would continuously come up with ingenious pranks on what we lovingly called the dirty field grade officers, DFG for short. This could range from launching water balloons at them on the way back from chow, or to hiding subdued field grade rank on major selects that would make the transition a little too early. Sean would always look forward to the next officer function, often staying up late at night, building a creative new game in his garage. He had a unique ability to come up with ideas that truly brought everyone together. This helped to ensure we formed a tight-knit, highly successful detachment and squadron. He was also a self-professed coffee connoisseur. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who had as many coffee devices as Sean did. We would routinely ask him to make coffee, and he would proceed to make some of the best coffee I've ever had. He had a special grinder, fancy kettle, and some kind of fancy pour-over coffee pot. I attempted to make coffee this way, but decided to leave it to him when he said I didn't let the grinds bloom enough when I poured the hot water on them. To this day, I still don't know what that means, and one day I'll find out. He could give any barista a run for their money. I'll always look back on our time at 252 with fond memories and appreciate getting to know Sean so well. It is incredibly sad that Sean's life ended so soon, and I cannot put into words how much we will miss him. Sean was one of the most positive and good-natured persons I knew. He had an authentic passion for life that was contagious to everyone. Even though Sean may be gone, his memory will live on in all of us forever. Sean, I appreciate your friendship and will never forget you. Semper Fidelis, brother. Go Chargers.
Good afternoon. Master Sergeant Joe Beadle. Flew with Brenda for 15 years. This is for Anna and some very close friends. Gunnery Sergeant Brendan C. Johnson, beloved husband, son, brother, and friend. To many of us, just Brenda. Brendan grew up in Colchester, VA, or Vermont, with his younger brother, Cullen, and his parents, Kevin and Suzanne. Brendan graduated high school in Colchester and then went on to Johnson State College, where he majored in art. Brendan was a very talented artist and created beautiful paintings. Among his paintings was his and Anna's grandfathers in their Navy graduation uniforms. Brendan was also the best at being clever and drawing situational caricature cartoons, many of which many of you that have known him have in your possession. His humor and wit were bar none. Brendan joined the Marine Corps in 1993 and became a loadmaster for over 23 years. This job allotted him the opportunity to travel to destinations you only hear about. Brenda was meant to retire in July of 2018. He and Anna would have retired in Montana. Brenda was the heart of the squadron's transportation and embarkation knowledge. There was nothing he hadn't loaded onto or dropped out of a KC-130. Whenever the operation department was tasked with a support mission, he was always the go-to guy on what's going to fit and how many passengers we could take. His experience base was invaluable when mission planning, and his attention to detail meant no one left a brief with questions unanswered. His professionalism was emulated by all Marines he mentored throughout the fleet, not just here at 452. Brendan married Anna January of 2002. He was an amazing husband, partner, great friend, and a beautiful companion. They liked to travel, explore, go for drives, watch sunsets, or just stay home and light a fire. Whether it be a few hours away in a car or halfway around the world in Australia, they adventured together. They loved to laugh. Brenda enjoyed history, museums, photography, and the outdoors. Brenda was intelligent and witty. He would throw out one-liners often. It was so funny you had to laugh. Then you came to the realization that you were the punchline of his joke. But it was so funny, you just kept laughing. Words become so inadequate when trying to sum up the enormity of Brenda and who he was. He had such a vast presence in everyone's life. He almost always had a smile on his face. Anna believes it was the most beautiful smile ever. It would light up his whole face. It was impossible to not love him, laugh with him, and even at him. He was loyal. No matter the time between visits, he always picked up where you left off. It was never uncomfortable with him, but it was always good. He was brilliant, funny, and charming. He was intelligent, witty, and thoughtful. He was absolutely generous in all ways. He did so many kind things, always helping people. He shared all he could. He was so kind and good with children that he was a godparent to 5. To Anna, and probably most people knew him, Brenda is the most beautiful soul. His presence will be forever missed. Cheers, Brenda.
Good afternoon. My name is Master Sergeant Cowart. I'm a navigator here at VMGR 452. Gunnery Sergeant Mark Hopkins and I flew together. We worked in operations together. we deployed together, and we grew professionally and personally together. He was more than just an acquaintance. He was my friend. As we gather to remember him and all of our departed Marines today, I'd like to personally thank everyone in attendance, especially those who covered a considerable distance to be here. I also want to acknowledge all those who have sent their prayers and regrets. My deepest condolences go to Mark's wife, Patricia, their children, Wyatt, Abby, and Lewis, his mother, Deborah, his siblings, Buddy, Deneen, and Robbie, his grandmother, Gwendolyn, his uncles, Rick, Dan, Doug, and Mark, and to all those who feel his loss. It's hard to recall the exact date when you met someone when you feel like you've known them your whole life. That's the kind of friendship Mark offered, effortless and natural. One of my first memories of Mark was when my family and I first moved here to New York, and we went with Mark up to Phoenicia for pancakes. I don't know how such a skinny guy could put down that giant plate of pancakes. He saw that meal as a challenge, freely accepted it, and ultimately dominated it. After that feast, Mark thought it appropriate to use his socks as gloves in order to scale the underside of a low bridge, just for the fun of it. On the way back in, he dropped into the knee-deep water and spent the rest of the day with wet shorts. I can't recall a memory from that day that doesn't involve a smile on his face, a signature trait of Mark's. Mark's sense of adventure and his spontaneity were legendary. Anyone who knew him can undoubtedly recall more than one story about him running off to hike a trail, climb a mountain, surf a wave, or shred the slopes. There's no doubt that one of Mark's goals was to live life to the fullest, and I think there is no better testament to that than his wife and kids. Mark's unwavering commitment to Patricia and his children was beyond admirable. He was the most attentive and devoted husband and father I've known. At the Marine Corps Ball, you'd be hard-pressed to find a husband prouder of his wife than he. And I don't think there's ever been a gathering when he didn't have at least one of his kids hanging off of him the whole time. He truly loved his family. Mark's spirituality was also admirable. He lived his life for God and loved to spread that message. He was never imposing. He was just himself. Those of us who have ever held back a chuckle during a hoppy prayer will never forget his special and goofy way of sharing his faith. His prayers were a reflection of his life, humorous yet sincere, bold and adventurous, but always filled with faith. Mark made every moment count, whether working diligently for the Corps, embarking on some grand adventure, dancing with his wife, playing with his kids, spreading his faith, or just strumming on his guitar. He did it in his own distinct way. Though his days on earth were too few for us, he created more than a full lifetime of great stories and wonderful memories. He epitomized the Marine Corps' motto of Semper Fidelis. He was always faithful to God, to his family, to his friends, to his country, and to the Marine Corps. We shall remain always faithful to his memory. Semper Fidelis, Hoppy.
Gunnery Sergeant Harvey, I'm going to say a few words about our brother, Joshua Snowden. Now, I'm not very good at things like this, but if you thought that anyone but a fellow Texan was going to be up here to speak on behalf of Staff Sergeant Snowden, then you obviously did not know him. Staff Sergeant Snowden, it feels so good to get to say that. We never officially got the chance to call him a Staff Sergeant because he wasn't promoted until July 10th of 2017. Now, Staff Sergeant Snowden, he had an unconditional love for God, the United States Marine Corps, the great state of Texas, and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, when he was passionate about something, he poured his entire heart into it. For example, it doesn't matter what was going on Saturday nights whenever we all got together. He always left at a decent hour to make sure that he was ready for church. And you can guarantee that if you wanted to make any plans with him on a Sunday, nothing was happening until after services were over. He was also very brilliant, and he could have done anything he wanted to with his life, but he still chose to be a flight engineer in the United States Marine Corps. And he was one of our best. For those of you that didn't know, it is the best job in the Corps. Staff Sergeant Snowden's personality was as big as the state of Texas, and everything he owned was branded with that beautiful Texas flag. He installed a flagpole in his front yard here so that everyone that drove by knew that a proud Texan lived there. This went right along with his Texas flag painted mailbox. Then there's the Dallas Cowboys. Not a favorite of people in this area, but he still wore a different Dallas Cowboys shirt every day of the week during football season. And during his time during flight engineer training, in the dead of winter, he would still come over knowing he had to sit outside and watch the game through the glass door. Even though we had known him for 12 years, he still had to pay his dues, and he would own it. Josh was Josh, and he wouldn't waver for anyone or anything. He knew exactly who he was, and it didn't matter if it was his cowboy hat, boots with a big Texas-sized belt buckle in New York City, or way too much flair on his flight suit. He wouldn't change for anyone. He is loved, he is missed, and he will never be forgotten. God bless y'all, his family, the United States Marine Corps, and as Josh would say, the 5-time world champion Dallas Cowboys, and God bless Texas.
Sergeant Chapon, fellow friend, flight engineer of Owen Lennon. Once again, I woke up today trying to figure out how to regain what we lost. The legacy of Owen Lennon, the son, the brother, the soulmate, the friend, flight engineer, as everyone knew him, as a beer snob, and one of the most outstanding Marines I know. There's a gaping wound in my heart that I hope will heal. I know it will. When it does, though, it's going to leave behind a scar that I hope, when I look at, doesn't hurt anymore. I want to look back, and when I think I want to smile and laugh with all my friends. Following in Owen's footsteps my whole career, I watched him pave the way and set the example for our generation. Owen has always been a hard worker at exceeding expectations. I later learned where this inspiration came from on the way to a 4th of July party a week before the crash. He shared a story about his dad. It was so deep and passionate. And he talked about how his dad would give his all and everything, working around the clock after hitting hard times to provide for his family and put a roof over their head. I saw this in Owen every day, whether it was staying late for maintenance, a last-minute rescue mission to anywhere in this world, or spending that extra time for a Marine in need. Owen genuinely cared for all the Marines in VMGR 452. Knowing Owen, I know he would want us to rest easy and spend time with our family and friends, to enjoy the finer things, and remember to get him a Miller Lite. When you're watching football later this season, you watch Tom Brady throw another touchdown, remember that he is the greatest football player the NFL has ever seen. Owen was always an inspiration to others, and some of the younger Marines might be able to learn something from him, but I actually watched him meet an outstanding girl, his soulmate, at the E-Club, which I thought was impossible. Thank you, Jen. And at the end of the night, our days sometimes would take us to the biggest hole in the wall we could find. We'd sing karaoke together, usually Africa by Toto, giving our lungs out to it. Well, when you find yourself out there again, remember to put Owen down for Queen's Fat Bomb Girl. I love you, Owen, my friend, my brother, Marine. Till we meet again.
Good afternoon. My name is Chief Warrant Officer Alex Tracy. I'm a navigator. I had the distinct pleasure of not only flying with Sergeant Julian Kevon, but working with him in the ever-demanding physical shop. So we asked, who was Sergeant Julian Kevon? We know he was a loving son, a caring brother, a devoted husband, a truly dedicated Marine. Julian loved his family and his Marines. He would give up his personal time to help any fellow Marine or anybody in need. Sometimes he would give up his work time too. Working in the fiscal shop, Julian would be responsible for processing multiple travel claims, requesting orders. It's a very demanding on your time type of shop. But Julian always found the time even going so far to hide his efforts from us. He would go to the crewmaster students, flight engineers, heck, even some of the pilots, and sit with them, helping them complete their travel claims, no matter how long it took. He would do this knowing full well that we, or in reality I, would get mad at him for it. And he'd always just tell me, "Sir, they just needed a few minutes of my time." And that was Julian. Didn't matter. He always had time. Julian did all of this, never wanting 1 ounce of attention. Julian just wanted to help people. He is hands down the most humble Marine and man that I know. And as Marines, we are definitely not known to be humble creatures. But Julian truly was. I only just recently discovered that Julian had a degree from Michigan Technological University. Julian never talked about his own personal accomplishments. He even became an instructor. Julian didn't tell me. I had no idea. I'm writing his fit reps and I had no idea. I had to seek it out from him. But that was Julian. He never puffed out his chest, never beat his drum. Julian just set about his job like a true, quiet professional. Julian truly loved his job. Maybe not working in the fiscal shop, but when Julian was on the airplane, flying, or teaching young crew masters, he could never have been happier. Becoming a Marine aircrewman is not an easy task. It takes hours of class time, hours of studying on your own time. You couldn't be afraid of failure. You'd have to be able to learn from each experience. Julian's hard work and dedication allowed him to be able to become one of the select few in the Marine Corps. He became a qualified Marine KC-130 crewmaster. Julian valued his family above all else. He would spend his time, off time, going to Sleepy Hollow for the Halloween, just taking train rides just through the country just to see it. Numerous times he'd just go to the city just to try a new restaurant or go see a new museum or just to go see it. We'd always come in on Monday and have our coffee and we'd talk, and I'd always have to kind of prod Julian, "Hey man, did you do anything this weekend?" And never can I remember Julian ever telling me, "No, I just sat at the house, didn't do anything." Julian just wanted to spend his weekends, his time, making memories with his family and his beloved wife, Sherry. Julian, we are going to miss your smile, your laugh, those giant lunches you would try to cook on the pizza pizzazz, your voice, that glorious mustache of yours. Everyone here is a better person for having known Julian. So know that, Julian, while you will be missed, you will truly never be forgotten. Rest in peace, my friend.
Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Kenneth Littner. It's an honor to be here today to help celebrate the life of Corporal Colin Schaff. I worked with Colin since the day he checked into VMGR 452 in 2014. Colin and I got promoted to the rank of corporal together, a truly unforgettable experience. Colin was a roommate of mine and a friend who was always there for me. There are endless great things to be said about Corporal Colin Schaff. Colin was definitely one of the most selfless men I've ever met. Anyone who knew him or met him could instantly tell that he held himself to a higher standard than most, but also had a caring heart for everyone else's well-being. He was the person that you could always count on and was always there for you with anything you needed help with. No matter the person, whether it was a close friend, a brief acquaintance, or one of his Marines in need, he would instantly drop any of his plans to ensure that they were taken care of first. At work, Colin was a hard-charging Marine and a positive motivator. He was always making sure the Marines to his left and right were as squared away as he was. Whether it was knowledge of the job, Marine Corps knowledge, or uniform inspections and drill. Colin obtained and maintained the highest qualifications and was constantly seeking higher positions to take on more responsibilities. He would always make himself available and ready for any detachment with ordnance that the squadron would need him for since the day he showed up to the shop. He also held billets that are commonly held by a higher grade and excelled at them. Outside of work, Colin was always trying to improve the Marines' morale and cohesion by hosting a monthly poker night during the weekends when the reserve Marines were available to attend. During the summer, he would also invite Marines to go camping or hiking with him just about every weekend, rain or shine. He would also invite Marines over for dinner with him and his family after work and during the holidays. Colin clearly exemplified that establishing camaraderie was always a top priority for him. So we are gathered here today to celebrate life. During this time, it is difficult to move forward while mourning, but Colin would not want us to hang our heads and drag our feet. Colin would want us to keep our heads up, to remember him for the person he was. Colin's impact on our unit will forever leave a footprint. Corporal Colin Schaff will never be forgotten. Remember, sadness is always temporary, and know that Colin is guarding heaven's gates with his golden gloves on, hitting it like a champ. Semper Fidelis, Colin. Ayoyas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lance Corporal Ethan Snyder. I was a friend and fellow student with Corporal Daniel Baldessari. Throughout my life, I've known many men and many Marines. I've been proud to call many of them friends. However, few men ever define those titles quite like Daniel Baldessari. The first time I met Dan was the first day at the squadron. At 6 a.m. I woke to a buzzing phone, rolled over and picked it up. Sure enough, it was him. Even though we didn't have to be there until 07:30, even though for an hour and a half there was absolutely nothing for us to do. Here he was dragging me out of bed to say that not only was he up, but he was in the squadron parking lot. He was ready. Dan set the tone that day for every day to come. As a Marine, Dan was driven. Every day he would come into work with that big goofy grin of his and that eccentric hair that he swore was natural. Even though it made you want to take a second look at our regulations, every day he came in and he succeeded. He accelerated through the schoolhouse faster than one could have hoped for. And by the time he picked up corporal, he embodied the best traits from every leader he ever admired in his life. Traits from his family to his command to our very own shop NCOs. Dan was relaxed but punctual, confident but teachable at every level. Dan was the kind of guy who you could laugh with on the job, but trust when you needed the job done right. In the Marines, we aspire to lead by example, and Dan was a great example of an excellent Marine. Dan was a living definition of the word friend. Who else but a friend could you fight with in the morning and then stay up late into the night studying and laughing with? Who else but a friend would show up at your door late at night, looking distraught, only to find he was there to raid your fridge as if you had stocked it just for him? Who else would drop everything they were doing to help you, be it picking up the new guys from the airport or showing them around, or explaining that aircraft system you just didn't quite understand? You could count on Dan. You could count on his sarcasm to shine through when you needed it the most and make you laugh in almost any situation. You could count on his calmness when you needed advice and his support when you felt like failing. But above all, you could count on Dan to just be Dan. That's more than you could ever hope for. In Dan's passing, a piece of every one of our hearts is broken. But Dan isn't gone, not really. He lives on in every memory he's made, in every way he's shaped our lives, and in every step we take in his name moving forward. In his wake, Dan leaves us with new friends, a closer family, and a world changed for the better. And somewhere, Dan watches over us, smiling at this family from a new set of wings. Semper Fidelis, brother.
The Marine Corps Band New Orleans will now perform our Navy and Marine Corps hymn, Eternal Father.
Sergeant Major, front and center. Sergeant Major, call the roll.
Aye, aye, sir. Major Robertson. Captain Carlisle. Gunnery Sergeant Peterson. Staff Sergeant Opeachy. Sergeant Malone. Major Goyette. Major Kane Goyette. Major Kane M. Goyette. Captain Elliott. Captain Sean Elliott. Captain Sean E. Elliott. Gunnery Sergeant Johnson. Gunnery Sergeant Brendan Johnson. Gunnery Sergeant Brendan C. Johnson. Gunnery Sergeant Hopkins. Gunnery Sergeant Mark Hopkins. Gunnery Sergeant Mark A. Hopkins. Staff Sergeant Snowden. Staff Sergeant Joshua Snowden. Staff Sergeant Joshua M. Snowden. Sergeant Lennon. Sergeant Owen Lennon. Sergeant Owen J. Lennon. Sergeant Kivan. Sergeant Julian Kivan. Sergeant Julian M. Kivan. Corporal Shaft. Corporal Colin Shaft. Corporal Colin J. Shaft. Corporal Baldessari. Corporal Daniel Baldessari. Corporal Daniel I. Baldessari.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise, if able to, for a 21-gun salute, followed by playing of taps and the Marines hymn. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our memorial honoring.
Memorial is here to symbolize for the Marines that are no longer with us, that are walking in the gates. It's a chance for the Marines and some of the family members to pay their final respects for those that are no longer with us. They were all hard chargers. They volunteered. They do what they wanted to do. The Major was really respectful, loved his Marines. The Marines loved each other, and that was shown today with this team, with this squadron of 452. They have a brotherhood and sisterhood that is unmatched by many other units. It gives them a chance for closure, that it's a chance to say goodbye, but then a chance to say, okay, we are Marines, we need to step forward and do still what we need to do. We memorize them, we celebrate them, and we still complete the mission. So that gives them a chance to do that. The roll call, you had 5 Marines that were present of the ranks of the Marines who no longer with us. When we do the echo call, saying a name 3 times, that'll be the last time in that formation that they'll ever be called. When we ended the event with taps, the last thing that was played was the Marines hymn, because just as those 9 Marines would want and needed to know that the Marine Corps is still going to carry on, but memorize them as we stand tall, protecting here while they protect the upper gates.
Their lives were sadly cut short, and there's nothing we can do about that, except to let their lives and the way they lived them serve as an inspiration for all of us to live as they did. How did they live? They lived life full bore, with a sense of joy and meaning that only derives from service and sacrifice. These Marines and sailors packed more into their short lives than most people do in 2 or 3 times their years. They lived intentionally and fully, not safely or by avoiding hardships. Their lives were not characterized by empty pursuits or wasted time. Instead, they spent each day fulfilling a distinguished purpose and making a difference. And while we're all rightly saddened and understandably unsatisfied by how brief it was, hopefully we can all agree that theirs was each a life well lived. So let's remember these Raiders and draw from their examples. They answered a calling. For whatever personal reasons, they chose to endure the hardships and deprivations of boot camp to become United States Marines, and then chose to overcome even more grueling challenges to become special operators and serve their country in harm's way. So to me, this is a day of celebration. It's a day for all of us to celebrate and be ever so grateful that there are still such fine men in America as these who choose to live a life of service and sacrifice. May God rest their souls. Semper Fidelis and Spiritus Invictus.